Hello, welcome to the second video of how to play Dungeons & Dragons. I'm Greg. We're going to be discussing character classes. Just a variety of them. We're not going to get into detail. Each character class will have its own detailed video. The fighter, the pros and cons, the magic user, pros and cons, and so on and so on. What I'm just going to discuss here are the basics of how to create a character class. First edition has your basic 4 classes: the fighter, the thief, the cleric, and the magic user. Then they have subclasses. The thief would have assassin, the fighter would have the paladin and the ranger, the cleric would be cleric and druid, and the magic user and illusionist. Those were the only basic classes. But then there was the monk. They kind of compelled it with the thief class, but it's more of a fighter class. But the 1E monk was difficult to play because it wasn't administered right. So a lot of people changed them out or excluded them altogether. Then we had the second edition, which this first edition had assassin. This one totally got rid of it, never mentioned it. Probably because they were receiving some bad press in the 80s from some whacked out lunatic down in Texas. She was thinking this game was devil worshipping and all this other stuff, but it was a bunch of nonsense. But anyhow, there's no rule that says what classes are in here and then which ones are or are not. You have to go by this one. I do a combination of the two. I still allow the assassin, but in this book here they eliminated the monk. I'll get to that in a moment. But they perfected the bard, a much playable character. A bard is kind of a little bit of a fighter, the tiniest bit of a thief, and a tinier part of a magic user. Jack of all trades, master of none. But then they added some more classes. In the early September of 1985, a book called Unearthed Arcana came out. It had the Cavalier, the Barbarian, and the Thief Acrobat. But, as I mentioned about earlier, what happened to the monk? Well, out came Oriental Adventures. They perfected the monk in this book here, but they also brought out the Samurai, the Kenzai, the Wu Jen, and a host of other Oriental characters to play. Then it opened up a whole variety of characters, but still your basics, your fighters, magic users, thieves, and clerics. But they also included weapons that were normally not available in the other books. Again, options, but not necessarily needed. But I combined all 4 of the books for player characters to enjoy. So we would have, in the fighter class, fighters, barbarians, rangers, cavaliers, paladins, and the monk. And the thief, we would have the thief, the assassin, and the thief acrobat. And the clerics, still just cleric, druids, and magic user and illusionists. But second edition did something different. With the magic users, they developed schools. I still like to keep the magic user and illusionist separate, just because an illusionist can gain certain spells sooner than a magic user on different levels. So I like to keep those separate, but doesn't mean you have to. I just play it that way. But also in the 80s and 90s, there was this role-playing magazine called Dragon. Every now and then they would throw NPC classes out there. What's an NPC, you ask? Non-player character. Non-player characters, NPCs, is what I, myself, the DM, or your DM would play when you have an encounter. A PC is player character. You are the PC, player character. But they had 2 interesting classes, the archer and the bandit. Well, I included them in the character classes for my games as a player character. So in the thief area, you have the thief, the assassin, thief acrobat, and the bandit. In the fighter classes, I added the archer to there. So you would have more classes to choose from. So when you go to create a character, you need a character sheet. You already have some of the books. You read a little bit of the classes, but what do I do with all that information? Well, I still have the original player character sheets from the 1980s. They were yellow at the time, and each sheet had its own character class. You had the clerics and druids, you had the magic users, the fighters, and the thieves. Each one had its own special sheet for all the things you need, but it was really clouded with a lot of stuff. But then came along 2E, second edition. They made one character sheet with a lot of information they got rid of and made it simple to use. But they made one problem. The sheet is huge. They gave you a sheet for spells. Since when does a fighter use spells? Don't really need it. So what I allow people to do, and I have done in the past, was create your own character sheets. There are plenty of PDFs online that you can find that numerous gamers have made, streamlined, whatever, to see you. There is no one sheet that needs to be approved. Whatever works for you and your game, or whatever your DM approves. But as long as you have the 6 main abilities, your character classes and some of the bonuses and your weapons, and just general information on the back, like your magic items or treasure or whatever, if you're lucky enough to find any. But what defines a character? A character is its abilities: strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, charisma, and comeliness. What's comeliness? How well a character looks. Well, how do I get these abilities? Well, here's one thing that I found. In the original Dungeon Master's Guide and Player's Handbook, there is a couple examples how to create. Again, nothing set in stone, but this is one I found works very well, because an adventurer, you, a player character, is above the norm. What I'm going to say is, like, say, the average NPC, a tavern owner, you know, he's 0 level. You're starting off at 1st level. You're a little bit more better than this guy is. So you take 4 6-sided dice. You roll them, ignore the lowest number, and count the 3. Then you do that 6 times. And then you roll the 6-sided dice 1 time. And you come up with a number, and you can apply it to whatever ability you want. So you'll come up with a sheet like this. Roll it 6 times. I end up rolling a 4. So you can take that 4, apply it all to the 11, make it a 15, or take 2, apply it to the 16 to make it an 18, which 18 is the max number you can have, except for 2 exceptions. The Gray Elf can have an intelligence of 19, and the Ogre can have a strength greater than 18, or half Ogre, excuse me. But I only see 6 numbers. Where's my comeliness? Well, after all the abilities are said and done, then I have them roll for the comeliness. Why? Because in the past, everybody would put the lowest number in the comeliness, and you have a lot of butt ugly characters running around. Well, what does that matter? Well, it affects NPCs' reactions, and usually not to the good, so it drags the game out a little bit, makes encounters harder to deal with when you're dealing with happy people, happy encounters, or you just want to go into a store and buy something. You know, that's the way life is. So I do that roll last, and it is what it is. Some players are for the numbers. Oh, I got to have max this, max that, or my character's no good. They are missing the point. Sort of like a drunk Robin Hood missing the target. Well, he'll probably hit the target anyway, but some drunk missing the target. They don't get it. It's not a numbers game. Sure, it's great to have higher numbers and have a bonus, but it is a role-playing game. RPG. You create that persona. You become that character. Whatever you do during the day, whatever job you have, doesn't appear at this table. You become somebody else to enjoy a fantasy adventure for a while. Act them out. You become the actor or the actress. Again, numbers are okay, but play the character. Here's an example. Let's say you have a low charisma. 10 is average, but you have a 6. You need a 6 or under for it to succeed. A 7 and higher, you're going to fail. But if you're acting out that character, I'm going to allow that interaction to determine what the NPC is going to do. If you're not playing the character well, I will have you roll the 20-sided dice. In this example, if they're trying to persuade an NPC to go away or do something, and they roll the 20-sided dice. If they roll a 6 and under, they succeed in allowing the NPC to do what needs to be done. If they fail, well, they fail and it doesn't happen. Numbers are good, but play your character. Create your own persona. Some players would like a challenge. In the original Dungeon Master's Guide, in the back of the book is a random chart for general tendencies and traits for NPCs. I use them for player characters. That kind of gives them a challenge to use. Again, back to the numbers. You could have a wizard that is just barely intelligent to qualify, but somehow has a really super strength. Awesome. Use that. Play that character to that point. You can have a fighter that's just, really strong. He has a good, healthy constitution, but he's a bumbling fool. Play it. Don't allow the numbers to drag you down. As I stated before, this is acting. There's a lot of character classes to choose from. But I give the characters an advantage from the start. This is my game. You can do it however you want, but I start them at first level, but instead of rolling for hit points, I give them max hit points from 0 to first level. Why? Because let's take a fighter. They can have anywhere from 1 to 10 hit points. If you roll a 2, he's got 2 hit points. What's a hit point? How much damage a person can take. First adventure out, he could be killed by a club just like that. What fun is that, spending 40 minutes creating a character to have him gone first time? So I give them max hit points because wizards only have a 4-sided dice, 1 to 4, so they're starting off at 8 hit points. The other thing is we roll for a random magic item. It could be helpful, could be harmful, or no help at all. A fighter could have a ring of protection +1. A thief could have a ring of water walking. A wizard can end up with a sword +5. Wizards can't use swords, so what are they going to do with it? Well, it's worth a lot of money. They can sell it for coin to get things what they need, magic spells or whatever, or trade it to an NPC for something else, or trade it to a fellow PC, a fellow player for something that they have that they may want that might be beneficial for the group. But yeah, that's the basics. Let me show you a few things here. I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to flip. So we got your fighters, got your rangers, got your archers, got your barbarians, your paladins, your cavaliers, your monks. You have your wizards and illusionists. You have your druids and clerics, your priests. Then you have your assassins, thieves, and bandits. That is a good representation of the figure classes. And of course your samurai, kenzai, and all that good stuff. Let me flip this around. As you saw my little cheat sheet there. So that's the character classes in a nutshell. I am going to go over what each class bonuses have, their penalties, and we'll go over races on the next video. Until then, have any questions, ask below. And remember, for a great fantasy story, visit tomesofahir.com. I have 4 books out right now. I don't have the 4th one here in front of me, right? But I have 4 of them out. Awesome story. Other than that, I'll talk to you later.